Hey guys, my name is Alex. I'm the co-founder at Wordcab, and today we're just going to be looking at the basics of the Wordcab API. And what we'll be doing is uploading a sample audio file and converting that into a human-sounding summary. And we're going to take a look at the output in detail, as well as some other capabilities of the Wordcab API. We're going to be using a Google Colab notebook. It's basically a Jupyter notebook hosted by Google. It's very convenient for just doing some quick testing, and I'll link that and any other media that I mention in the description below. But before we start, make sure you have a Wordcab account so you can get your free API key. And the way to do that is you go to wordcab.com/signup, create a free account, and that's it. And once you've signed in, all you have to do is go to your account page, which is this icon right here, and you'll see your blurred out API key. And all you have to do is click on this blurred out key. It'll copy it to your keyboard, and then we can start coding. So I'm just going to go over the notebook here. Again, I'm going to link it in the description below, and we'll go over this line by line so you can get a good sense of what to do with the API. Now, the first thing you're going to want to do if you're using Python is import requests and then create an API key variable so we can reuse this throughout the code. Here, I'm just going to paste the API key that I copied from my account page and run this. Next, we're just going to do a quick test to see if the API is working and if we got the API key right. And we're going to do this with the me endpoint. And all this is wordcab.com/API/me. For params, we're just going to have a dictionary with the API key as the only key, and then the variable itself pointing to the API key that we copied from our account. And we're going to make a simple get requests with requests library. And all this does is output some basic account information, and it verifies that the API is working well. We're not going to go over the output here. It's not very important, but we can see that it's working, so we can move on. So the core endpoint of the Wordcab API is the upload endpoint. And this is your gateway into the world of summarization. And it accepts not only audio files, but text transcripts or structured JSON input. And we're going to go over more advanced options in other videos, but for today, we're just going to upload a sample audio file. And this is an MP3 of a sales call. I just took this sales call example from YouTube. I'm going to link it in the description below, but it's a really quick 2-minute call. There's no outside commentary. It's just the sales call itself. So it's really convenient. So I actually took that video, converted it into an MP3, and uploaded it here into Google Colab. You can see sales call.mp3 over here in our Files tab. So all I do is I assign a file name, which is sales call.mp3. You can change this to whatever file that you upload. We're going to define a path. Here it's /content because we're using Google Colab, and the parent directory is content /file name. And for the endpoint, it's going to be wordcab.com/API/upload. And this ending slash is very important if you're making post requests to the Wordcab API. At least in Python, this ending slash is crucial. So I would leave it on for both get and post requests, just so you won't forget it. Next, we're going to define a files variable, and all that's going to be is a dictionary with an audio_file key, and then that's going to equal open, the open function, with the file path, and RB as the second parameter. That's just read binary. For params, we're going to include the API key like we did with the me endpoint above. And this is very important. We have to include the source with every upload request. We have to include what the source is. And in this case, it's just an audio file, so we're going to put audio. In other videos, we're going to dive into more advanced options, but for now, we'll just stick to source audio. And only API, this is an optional parameter. And all it does when you set it to false is that it shows the current upload request in your Wordcab dashboard. This is great for debugging. If you want to check out the output, instead of a raw audio file, you get a full UI with the summary and the transcript. It's a lot easier to check out the quality of the summary when you're using the interface. And the way you do that is you set only API to false, and then you'll see your request and eventually the output in the dashboard, and we'll check it out in this video as well. So just for debugging purposes, I set only API to false. And this is a string, not the Python false with the capital F, just lowercase false. And then we're going to make the post request. We're going to identify the files attribute as well as the params. And once we run this post request, we're going to get back a job name. We're going to use this job name to pull the same upload endpoint. In this case, when you're making a GET request, the slash is optional, but it's best to include it just so you won't forget it. So we're going to use the same exact endpoint, and this time we're only going to have two parameters. We're going to have the API key, which we defined in the first cell, and the job name, which we got back from this post request. So I already have this variable input here. And if we run this, we're going to get back a dictionary with the job name that we input and the status. And currently it's transcribing. If you were to input a text transcript, it would immediately jump to summarizing. But for now, it has to transcribe the audio file, and then it will summarize it. And if we actually refresh this page, we'll see the same request and its progress in the UI. And once it's done, we'll be able to jump in and check out the output in a much more visually appealing way. But for now, all we have to do is poll this every 30 seconds, every minute or so. And when status changes to complete, this same endpoint will populate with all the data and metadata that you need for your summary. So all we're going to do is just wait a few minutes and then go over the output once this is finished. So we're back. We're going to pull the same endpoint once again. And we'll see that the output changes. Instead of just the job name and status, we get a lot more fields. And remember when we set the only API parameter to false, we can see in the dashboard itself that the sales call that we uploaded is finished. And we can kind of see a visual representation of the raw output that we get with the API here. And actually, this page uses the Wordcab API to display everything. So it's kind of a preview of what you can build in your own platform. So we have the summary here, and we can change the length of the summary. We can make it shorter or more fine-grained. In this case, it's a 2-minute call, so you're not going to see a difference. But with calls 10, 20, 30 minutes long, the summary length will be a lot more dramatic. We can also see the transcript itself on the left side. You get that back in your API output as well. There is an audio player, so you can listen back to the audio that you uploaded, as well as speaker labels that you can change. So in this case, I'm going to change it to Lauren, John. And if we actually go back and pull the same endpoint again, we can see right here that the summary changes as well to include the new speaker labels that we set in the UI. So this is very useful if you're debugging, if you're just checking out the quality of Wordcab summaries, and you want a simpler representation, a visual representation of the API output. Setting the only API parameter to false is a great way to do that. you'll be able to go over all your examples within the Wordcab dashboard itself, and just check out the quality for yourself. But actually what I wanted to do is go over this output field by field. It's not very comfortable in Google Colab, but what we can do is grab this job name and run the same request in Postman. I'm just going to make this full screen here, or as big as possible. Okay, and we're going to set a summary length to 5. In this case, this call is too short, so it's arbitrary, but you can set this to any value between 1 and 5, and you'll get back a shorter summary if you set it to 1, or a much longer summary if you set it to 5. So the first field that you're going to see is status. This is just going to be complete. If it was an error, it would say error. Then you're going to get an array of summary paragraphs. In this case, 2-minute call, it's going to be a single paragraph. Otherwise, it's going to be multiple paragraphs. The summary length, this is just the parameter that you entered here. By default, it goes to 3, which is an average size summary. Next, you're going to get a structured transcript, which is basically an array and every utterance within the transcript. So if you look at here, you can see this is a turn by turn of what each speaker said. So Lauren, colon, etc. And this goes line by line. It's pretty much the same thing here in the JSON output. It's an array, and each of these objects is a single turn, and it includes the machine readable timestamps, the human readable timestamps, the speaker label, and the text itself. And that's basically what you see here. And again, this UI uses the API so you can see the potential output. So this is just a structured transcript. Next, you have the Wordcab link. This is a link if you set only API to false. You would see this in a dashboard. If you didn't, it would not appear in the dashboard, but you would still be able to access the visual version of this using this Wordcab link. There's also a public link if you want to share it with other people. The source this is just the source that we initially set with the upload post request. We set it to audio because we were uploading an audio file. The speaker map, now this is pretty interesting. So this corresponds to these speakers here. You could see A is Lauren, and we recently changed that in the UI. And B is John. You can actually send a post request to a different endpoint and programmatically change the speaker labels, and they'll propagate throughout the summary. So if you wanted to set this to Lauren and Bob, it would propagate it. Instead of John, it would say Bob in the summary output. So this is useful for programmatically changing the speaker labels. There's also this display name, which is useful if you're setting only API to false and you want to see your API requests within your dashboard, and you want a human readable name. This is the parameter you could set when you're initially making that upload request. Here it's set to sales call. And if you go to your dashboard, you'll see the human readable name is right here. And next we have the structured summary, which is the core of the output. And this is an array that includes the summary paragraph itself, as well as the human readable and machine readable timestamps of what was summarized. So in this case, it's a 2-minute call from second 8, which is when Lauren started speaking, to the final utterance at the 1-minute 58-second mark. That's what is being summarized. If it was a much longer call, we'd have more objects, and the start and end timestamps, would be just part of the call. In this case, that's a short call. It's going to encompass the whole transcript. If we click this bullet point over here, this paragraph, we can see exactly what is summarized here. And you'll see this transcript output right below, right? So we have the summary here. We have the timestamps of what exactly in the audio was summarized. And then we get the transcript segment associated with that summary. So this summary corresponds to this section of the transcript, in this case, short call, the entire transcript, and you're just going to get that structured transcript corresponding to that summary in this same object. So that's about it. I hope that makes sense. And if you want to dive into this deeper, you can always go to docs.wordcab.com to check out the full documentation, and we'll have more videos covering more advanced topics and more nuances of the API. But these are just the basics. This is a great way to check out Wordcab's capabilities, check out the quality of the summary that is being generated, and look at the UI component as well, which is much easier to process and grok than the raw JSON output. So I hope you enjoyed this demo, and let me know if you have any questions in the comments below.